As I said, we are done.
Short and sweet.
Let's see. Okay, we'll go to the presentation. A lot of the points here you've already sort of seen in the video, but we'll go through quickly. As I said, stop me anytime. So we started in 2000, as the video pointed out, with 500 million evergreen fund. What the evergreen fund really means is we're investing out of the balance sheet. So it's really no stop date to that. There's no fund life. We invest out of it, all the profits go back into it, and sort of it's been going on for the last 14 years. So really, the way to look at it is just we're going to continue investing from a balance sheet for the foreseeable future. There's really no end to the venture fund, like a traditional VC fund. So we talk about the benefits Qualcomm brings if startups work with us. We have a lot of expertise on the technology side, including a lot of partners we work with, operators, OEMs, developers, and I think now 100+ portfolio companies that we can help other startups with. And we talk about some of the awards we've gotten. We're always ranked as one of the most active corporate VCs, top 3 all the time. There's a bunch of those awards you can see there. We just yesterday, I guess, got news of 2 new awards, so really hot off the press. In the US, there's a Corporate Venture Capital Association. They gave us 2 awards. One was Exit of the Year. One was Strategy Value Creation of the Year. The Exit of the Year, there was only 2 awards, and we got both. We were up against Google Ventures and Intel in one category, and Google and Merck in another category. The Exit of the Year, we'll talk about a little bit, was a company we invested in around 2008, company called Waze, which was, we were an early investor, and Google bought the company for $1.1 billion last year. And I've heard that it's widely used in Sao Paulo. Hopefully a lot of people are using Waze. I don't know how many people like it or don't like it, but now we don't take responsibility. When you liked it, that's when we were investors. We are no longer. So Google, it's all Google's fault if you don't like it. So that's sort of 2 recent awards we got. So we are very active, again, recognized by the venture community and the corporate venture capital community, both of them. In terms of our timeline, as I said, we started in 2000, but since then we've expanded.
You can just speak a little more slowly.
Slowly, okay.
I think that will help. That will help.
Sorry. Let's see. From now I go slowly.
Okay. We've got time, so.
If you speed up, we'll stop you.
Stop me. Yeah, I think I've gone through this too many times.
Yeah, that's the thing.
The problem. I will slow down. Just a minute. So, timeline. We discussed this. We started in 2000. so it's an evergreen fund, and since then, you can see that we've been expanding globally. China fund in '04, Europe in '06, first India investment '07. We started the Qualcomm Life Fund, which we'll actually talk about a little bit, in 2008. We did our first Israel investment in '09. We established a seed fund, which is a very early stage, less than sort of $750,000 investments. Korea investment in '11, and then most recently Brazil has been our most recent addition. And you obviously, Carlos was introduced to you. Since we opened the office, Carlos has been very active. We've already done 3 investments, and then we're in the process of closing one more. So by the end of this month, or
Yes.
so we should have 4 investments in Brazil, and a really healthy pipeline. I try to come here at least once a year, and I've been here now a day and a half, and been very excited. I've seen a number of companies Carlos and team have arranged to meet with, so I've been very excited by the early stage innovation that I'm seeing in Brazil. It sort of reminds me of when we did the investments, when we started in India, we started in China, so it reminds me of those kinds of times. It's really bubbling up. I think a lot of the infrastructure problems companies are trying to solve using technology, and that's a sweet spot. So we'd like to fund and help those kind of companies. So I was very encouraged by that. We also met with a number of early stage VCs who have commitment to the space, and we are co-investment, many of them actually, already. So look forward to continuing the presence in Brazil, and hopefully doing many more investments. Yes.
How much do you guys invested in Brazil in the beginning?
How much do we invest? We actually, I don't think, we don't disclose that
We
publicly.
don't disclose,
Yeah, but
that's-
through our investments, we'll find out, basically. I think none of these, the thing is, since it's, this number is quite old, because, when we started, we said 500 million, but we have invested much more than that, because it's an evergreen fund, so we tend not to basically say X or million. What we try to say is basically, we are a fund that globally invests almost, in triple digits basically every year, globally. So it's a large commitment, and it's an annual commitment that we keep doing, we've been doing for so long. And Brazil is just, I think 2 years is quite short. By the time somebody comes in, so the fact that Carlos is able to do almost 4 investments in 2 years is actually fairly good. A number of the earlier geographies, we were not able to do that. I think the timing was right for us to come in here. So but we'll see that more increasing as time goes on. I think I already talked about this, but we have 20 investment professionals, but we also have 11 other folks who support the investment. So this is all the way from accounting to finance, marketing. We also have a dedicated business development team that helps portfolio companies. So if there's a company that needs help either with Qualcomm or one of our partners, and many times now portfolio companies are saying, I want to be introduced to another portfolio company, because we have 100+ companies now, and there's a lot of companies that want to work with each other. So we have a dedicated team that actually helps facilitate these discussions, takes our companies on roadshows. We have many events that Qualcomm attends over the years. For example, there's Mobile World Congress, there's Consumer Electronics Show, and during these shows, we help arrange for sometimes booth space for our companies. We help them get showcased. Basically, all of that is complimentary from Qualcomm. Now, we can't accommodate 100 companies there, but not 100 companies are appropriate for these shows, but the ones that have appropriate, they've asked for us, we accommodate as much as we can. So the main message here is, it's viewed as a global fund in the sense that any company that's we fund in Brazil, if they want to do business in any of these other geographies, not only do we have Qualcomm investment professionals, we have Qualcomm people. So just like the office here, all the folks here that are, only Carlos here is technically from Qualcomm Ventures, but there's many other people from Qualcomm here who are ready to support portfolio companies. And that's a similar thing. If a company in Brazil wants to do business in China or India, we have similar support in those regions. So that's why I think the advantage of a global fund is very obvious for us, is that there's a lot of synergies that we can help between portfolio companies and Qualcomm in other parts. So I think that's part of the promise and why I think we've been successful across so many years. So why did we start? What are our objectives? In general, we are the venture capital arm of Qualcomm. So one of the main aspects that we look for is to return strategic value back to Qualcomm. How do we do that? In general, the way we look at things is, Qualcomm, we believe, is a very innovative company. We pride ourselves on the R&D investments we make. However, I think our fervent belief is that innovation is not limited to the four walls of Qualcomm. It's happening everywhere. Especially on the startup side, we believe the companies that are taking the highest risk are looking into the future and basically saying, I'm going to make a bet on that. So, and what we want to do is make sure we have a pulse on what startups are investing in, what they're looking at, where they are creating new technologies, because that's sort of the forefront of innovation. And the advantage we have now is we are obviously headquartered in San Diego, but we have global offices. By having Qualcomm Ventures across the globe, we're able to tap into innovation across the globe, and it's different. I think a lot of the technology may be created in the US, but there's application of the technology that is very different depending on local markets. The same technology can be applied differently in India, in China, in Brazil, because the markets are different, the cultures are different, and it's the same thing with our products. We want to make sure that our products have that input back into the product cycle as to how consumers are using our technology in these markets. They're very different. There's many examples. I think a few years back, an example I gave from India is that in India, the rates for mobile phone calls was very low, but incoming calls, unlike the US, were free. So what consumers started demanding there was dual SIM. And now it's become very popular, everybody knows, but that was the first time people said, why do you need dual SIM? Well, they kept one number just for incoming, and then they used to just basically use another number just to arbitrage based on the best rates that are available. So they used to keep changing, and that turned into became part of the product roadmap, and people started getting dual SIM phones. So again, this is very different from what the use cases in the US is, and I expect similarly Brazil will have different use cases, China has had different use cases. So it's very critical that we are there at the forefront to see these kind of innovations happen. The second thing is a lot of our corporate units will have technology needs that are not met organically, and they'll say, is any other company doing this outside that we can either work with, partner with, or maybe even acquire? And so that's part of the role we have. And then I think finally, really, we need to make financial returns. And I think why that's important is when we make investments, the more discipline we have on the financial side means we pick good companies, and we pick good companies means they actually do well, which means there's strategic value back to Qualcomm. So people ask, are you financially focused, are you strategic focused? My answer is you can't actually do one without the other. Because if a company is not successful financially, then it's not successful strategically for anybody. If companies fail, then they're not going to help Qualcomm. So we're focused on finding the best healthy companies that can return strategic value to Qualcomm. That's, I think, a very key aspect of how we look at deals. So where do we put our money? We have 5 sort of broad sectors that we put money in. It is sort of opportunistic, so some categories we may put money in that are not represented here. But broadly speaking, we'll put money into hardware infrastructure. This is like in the core network, for example, Ciclo is a company that makes backhaul better for wireless networks. InventSense is a company that we were early investors in that went public, very good return for us. And they were the leaders in consumer gyros and accelerometers. So they're the first company that brought accelerometers and gyros to phones and to the Wii. They got the Wii first on the phone. So this is an example of sort of on the hardware side. On the software side, again, Blipper, for example, is a company that's pioneered augmented reality. You've, I think, hopefully got a briefing on Euphoria at some time. So Blipper is a company that built off the Euphoria platform and is very successful now based in the UK, developing AR solutions for marketing agencies and for brands. Gaikai was a cloud gaming player, again was acquired by Sony. We had a very good exit on that one. Examples of companies that are on the software side. On the consumer applications, we've already talked about Waze. Tango is another one that's really taken off from a consumer perspective. They provide, the best way to think about it is if you're familiar with FaceTime for iOS, it's like a cross-platform FaceTime, so you can do video calling between Android and iPhone or Windows or any other phone. So it's true real-time video calling, and it's really popular. It's got over 100 million users now and a very good growth trajectory. So those are examples of consumer applications. I've talked, Wood Dolphin is a browser company based out of China. I talked a little bit about healthcare, so that's an emerging sector for us. We have a number of companies, right now mostly limited to the US because that's where we started, but we hope to expand that outside the US into companies that are leading digital mobile health companies that help, sort of bring wireless into mobile health to make it more efficient, more accessible. I think sitting in the US, we assume healthcare is available everywhere, but as I go to developing countries, it's obvious that city centers, if you're outside the city centers, it's actually hard to get access to healthcare. So we believe mobility can really solve that, whether you maybe have a diagnosis in one place and you get treatment someplace else. So you can do a number of things using mobility that we want to promote, and we've got a number of innovative companies doing that on the healthcare side. Last category for us, this is probably the smallest one in terms of devices that focus specifically on connectivity, and this could be, for example, LiveScribe is a digitally connected pen that as you write your notes today, for example, it's actually used a lot by journalists in the US legal teams. As you're writing notes, it gets digitally transcribed into your iPad or iPhone or any other digital device, so you have it ready all the time. That's an example of something that's using connectivity to a device that's sort of a pen. And then there's a few other companies we've funded in that category. So that's probably our smallest category. Our largest category by far is software and platforms. So almost, if you take software applications, platforms, we have 63% of the portfolio is weighted towards that. We are still active in all the other areas, especially I think we expect this to grow a lot more. I don't think we'll do a lot more of the devices. I mean, software platforms and consumer apps will continue to grow, and this will likely be steady. The hardware infrastructure market is not necessarily growing from our perspective, so it'll be steady. I think I talked about some of the exits, but we have got a really good series of exits over the last few years. There's a few missing here, but in general, I mean, this goes to the mention I made about financial success. You have to have financial success. I think a lot of these companies have been very financially successful and have worked very well with Qualcomm also. So I think that's an example where we are very focused on making sure the companies we work with, we help them to get to some kind of exit. And so we got success both on the IPO side and the M&A side. We were having dinner with a few VCs yesterday, and I think the joke is that every VC is in the top quartile of performance, and we also are in the top quartile. But in general, we've done very well. I think since we have been around for 13 years, we've done very well financially. I talked a little bit about our healthcare focus. So we announced a Qualcomm Life Fund. I want to say it was around 3 years back, and since then we made a few investments. A couple of these investments were made before the announcement, but they were in the healthcare area. Again, the geography coverage is global. However, the early investments have been made in the US. One I think very visible and high-profile investment is the company Fitbit. So if you've seen people wearing this band which measures how many steps you do and how you sleep, so that's actually one of our investments out of this fund. It's been doing extremely well. It's become almost a household name in the US associated with Tracker, so it's the brand name which is right now actually beaten the Nike Fuel Band and others in that category. And there's a number of others that sort of are doing everything from consumer-focused healthcare to in-hospital. For example, Sotera Wireless is an innovative technology company that is making it easier to measure blood pressure wirelessly and non-invasively in the hospital setting. Again, just a spectrum of companies all the way from the hospital to the consumer here. So let's switch topics. We'll talk about Q price. And let's get the graphics done. We'll see what Q price is.